Let's dig in a little bit more into the if name equals main block. So we have a class called vehicle here. 4 wheels is one of the attributes. We have a dunder init. We have a static method, vroom. We're going to create an instance of vehicle, assign it to my variable, my car. Then we have this if dunder name equals dunder main, right? This is the block that I want to focus in for this video. So we know that this is going to be executed. This block here is going to be executed if we're calling this file directly. Why? Because dunder name is an attribute. It's a built-in variable that's going to be assigned underscore underscore main underscore underscore if we call this file directly. For example, if we run this directly, we see that this file is invoked, or in other words, this code is invoked, and this is running this dunder block, and so we're going to print this string. So we know that, but let's see how we can avoid printing this, right, and talk about imports. So in this other module, I'm going to call it module 2. We're going to import module 1, and this is what module 1 is. This is the name of the file, module1.py. We're going to bring that in, and then we can say, hey, module 1, which is this module that we're importing in, we know it contains a vehicle class because that's what we have here. Go ahead and instantiate this Ferrari, and the owner is going to be Ed. Then we're going to print whatever the vroom method returns. So if we run this, we're going to see that the vroom method returns that text, and that's this text here. So we see that this is not being printed. Why? Because we're not running this module 1 directly. We're running module 2 directly, and yeah, module 1 is being imported, but that's not the file that we're executing directly. This is a big deal. Why? Because that means that we can avoid some code running when we're importing. And that's the whole point of adding your unit tests here. Well, that's one way to do them. We're going to cover a couple different ways in my videos. One way is using the assert statement. And that's one way that you could do your assert statements within this if dunder name equals dunder main block, because it would only be executed, your unit tests, that is, it would only be executed when you call this module.py, which is your class file, directly. Otherwise, you're not going to do that. Otherwise, you're going to do something like this. And that's the whole point and the beauty of having this mechanism for allowing you to either execute some code if you're calling it directly, or not executing that code if you're importing that somewhere else. And we want to import as much as possible. Why? Because reusability goes up when we do that. When we can write our code in such a way that your code is structured in such a way that you're enabling reusability in other places, that means you're writing your code once in one place, and many other clients, many other pieces of code can benefit from that. Now, one thing you want to note also is that this brings in everything, right? And this may not be a good idea. And that's why I have this module 3 example, because I want to show you how you can import vehicle, which is a specific piece of code within module 1, to get the same thing. And that cleans up your code a little bit, because then you don't have to do module 1 dot notation vehicle. You can just say vehicle, because that's what you're importing here. And it knows from this declaration that it is from module 1. The other thing to note is that just like in SQL, we don't want to bring everything back, and that's what the star means. You could do this, right, for a module 1, import everything, but that's not good practice, because you only want to import what you need, and that's going to make your code cleaner, more readable, more maintainable, right? You're going to be able to perform maintenance on it a lot cleaner. That produces the potential for less bugs, and that's just good practice not to use a star. But that's another way that you could do it. You could do it this way, and that does clean up your code, and this is recommended, right? You can import specific things. So for example, if I run this, you can see that I get the same result, but again, I clean up this piece of code in line number 4, from this, right? A little bit less typing. One thing to note is that you may or may not want to do this, right? What about if you have different vehicle classes that you're importing? Then this would make sense because you could definitely, keep them separate and the conflicts won't happen. So I hope this makes sense.